Well, first of all, we create a really safe, judgment-free zone because a lot of us women, we judge ourselves all day long, right? We're our worst critics.
Yeah.
So creating a safe space for women who are coming in with that negative self-talk already is really important as a starting point. And then what we're doing is we're really just getting your numbers to be in great shape because a lot of our clients come to us because either they've been doing the numbers themselves or ignoring them and
Yeah.
they're just not getting what they need, or they're working with another financial firm that maybe isn't giving them the support they need. Maybe the firm is doing the work, but our clients don't even really know what's happening with their money. They don't understand how to read those monthly reports that are being sent to them. They mean nothing to them. It's like looking at a different language.
Let's talk about the part of business growth no one wants to admit they're struggling with: money. In this episode, I sat down with the absolutely radiant Ruchi Pinniger, founder of Watch Her Prosper, to talk about what it really takes to create financial clarity, confidence, and true prosperity as a founder. Ruchi is a rare mix of Wall Street savvy, soulful money coach, and straight shooting business strategist. And in this conversation, she pulls back the curtain on why your business will never outperform your relationship with money. She introduces us to her RIR method, which I've used every day since we've recorded this episode, which is recognize, interrupt, and reframe. It's so powerful, and it's helped hundreds of women stop self-sabotaging and start building real wealth. And finally, how to pay yourself, own your numbers, and create a business that funds the life you actually want. So if you've ever avoided looking at your books, felt blocked around revenue, or wondered why it still feels hard even when money is coming in, this episode is your next move. It's time to align your strategy and your mindset because true prosperity requires both. Let's dive in.
Well, hi, Ruchi. Thank you so much for being here on the Scalable Marketing Machine podcast. We're going to get started with just having you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about how you started Watch Her Prosper and sort of what drove you to start a business that you have today.
Yes. Well, thank you for having me. It's exciting to be here with you and your listeners. So there's so much to say, but I'm going to share a little bit about how I started on Wall Street. So I was on Wall Street for many years and I just felt completely dissatisfied. I felt like there was so much more for me and I just didn't know exactly what that looked like at that time. Now I left, I got the courage to leave corporate and I hired a coach. And I remember that feeling of the control of like, I needed to know what was next. And it was really new for me to not know that. And this coach was the first person that said to me, okay, slow down. And I want you to listen to the messages from the universe and see what appears. And what appeared was all of these incredible women that started businesses, that loved what they did, that were so talented, but had all the stories. I'm not good at the numbers. I don't know how to do the finances. And they ignored them. And that's when I realized I could take all of my skills and my love of helping people, because as a child, I actually wanted to be a therapist.
Hmm.
And I could do all the things and marry the two and help people in this way at Watch Her Prosper.
Oh, wow. So, what drove you to kind of finding that coach initially, right? Like, how did you think, like, oh, I need a coach to help me through this? Because I think in that moment, and it doesn't matter if you're, in corporate thinking of leaving corporate or you're in your own business and you're feeling like really stuck. I think that there's a lot of different ways to approach a problem. What kind of brought, like, how did you find the coach? Because the coach is probably the person that probably ultimately sent you on the path, right?
That is exactly right. So, a lot of my friends in the corporate world were in HR because for a short period of time, I thought HR would be the solution to helping people,
They're going
and
to help
it
you.
wasn't.
Right.
It was,
Yeah.
yeah, it really wasn't. I was not happy. I cried at my desk every day, and I ultimately left. So it was really just the people I surrounded myself with were either coaches or getting certified to be coaches. And one of those incredible women said, I have a great coach, and I think she could really support you as you transition out of corporate. And I'm so glad because that was who was meant to be on my journey. And that first coach was the first person who really opened me up to spirituality as well. And that is such a huge part of what we do at Watch Her Prosper, because what I found in this work is we can do all the practical, tactical money stuff. So at Watch Her Prosper, we help with providing financial guidance, bookkeeping, tax time readiness, all the things that you would think like a fractional CFO does. But what I found was doing all of that without the money mindset piece, you weren't getting anywhere, right? Your business revenue will never outperform your relationship with money.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is so cool. And honestly, I meet so many, I mean, we're in some of the same communities. Like I meet so many women that are fractional CFOs and accountants, and I have never, and tax strategists and financial planners or whatever, never in my life, in my whole entire life, have I met someone like you that is marrying those two pieces. So like practically, what does that look like for when you're working with clients? And then I want to get into the nuts and bolts of what you're actually working through. And we got to talk about all these like very heavy blocks that we all have as women. But practically speaking, what does that look like? Like, what does engagement look like when someone works with you in your firm that I can imagine is vastly different than an experience at
Mhm,
like kind of a traditional CFO or accounting group?
mhm. Well, first of all, we create a really safe, judgment-free zone because a lot of us women, we judge ourselves all day long, right? We're our worst critics.
Yeah.
So creating a safe space for women who are coming in with that negative self-talk already is really important as a starting point. And then what we're doing is we're really just getting your numbers to be in great shape, because a lot of our clients come to us because either they've been doing the numbers themselves or ignoring them and
Yeah.
they're just not getting what they need, or they're working with another financial firm that maybe isn't giving them the support they need. Maybe the firm is doing the work, but our clients don't even really know what's happening with their money. They don't understand how to read those monthly reports that are being sent to them. They mean nothing to them. It's like looking at a different language. So we're really helping to translate the numbers into really easy language that's super clear and makes sense to our clients. And when we're meeting with our clients in our regular monthly or quarterly meetings, we're also paying attention to what's happening in their life. Like we take a very holistic approach. In fact, for many of our clients, we're doing their personal bookkeeping and their business, and we're aligning the two. Because really, what that magic number is, what do I need to make in my business to live my most prosperous life? That is the magic. And
Yeah.
that people have said feels like a shade has been lifted when we share that number with them and we figure that out with them. And when we're meeting with clients, we're also paying attention to their language. Like there's so much that's unsaid,
Mm.
and we will be really listening to where your mind is and really kind of capturing that with you and digging in deeper to what's happening. So if you say something in passing that you think isn't a big deal, we're kind of like, no, that was something. Can we talk about that for a minute? Can we go there?
Yeah.
Right. So it's a little bit of like mindset coaching, I would
Yeah.
say, along with it.
Well, it's interesting. And I wonder if other clients you work with have this issue because for me, I feel sometimes that like my business accounting, no, I don't, there's many people that have their partners that work inside their business. That's not the case for me. And so it does feel a little bit awkward in a way of how I sort of present, because again, how your business is doing is very relevant for your personal life. It's very relevant and important to share with your partner. And I sometimes, and I've tried to try to break out with this, but it sort of feels like I'm in my entrepreneurial layer. I've got, like the accountant we work with, like, uh, is not very good, so we have to switch and work with you. But honestly, it's very separate. And so there'll
Yeah.
be points where I feel like I'm kind of reporting to the family unit, okay, here's what's going on in the business, here's like the profit for the quarter or whatever. But it still feels very separate, right? And I
Yes.
think that so much of, at least for me, like decisions I make in investing in the business, different investments that may change what the profitability looks like, right? Because maybe
Hmm.
if you're doing some extra investments or you're doing some extra activities,
Hmm.
that may be taken from the profit bucket that ultimately might go back to your personal bucket. So
Yeah.
if you have someone that's sort of in this situation like me that's saying, these two things feel very separate.
Hmm.
I feel a little bit uncomfortable with how I talk to my partner about how things are going in my business. Do you have any
Hmm.
advice there? Especially because a lot of times us as women, we just kind of like hold our breath, we put our head down, we keep going, and maybe we don't know how to articulate what's going on with the business numbers exactly. Like, where would you say someone should
Yeah.
start?
I think the first of all, it's beautiful awareness that you have, and I think that awareness is the start. You're seeing what's actually happening and what you're feeling and how you're maybe hesitating,
Mm,
maybe with your spouse.
mm,
So just that awareness. And then what we would do with you as a client is have the conversation around kind of the pros and cons, what's feeling good to you, because a lot of it is the black and white numbers, but a lot of it is also the intuition, right? And the trust. Sometimes we make investments in full trust and in full knowingness of our abundance, of the fact that that's going to grow.
mm.
And that's something that's harder to articulate. And, a lot of us as women do use our intuition and men may not as much. So kind of having, if your partner or spouse is much more practical, like you saying, I know in my gut that I'm gonna,
Yeah,
it is not always as easy. So we would be talking to you about having that conversation. A lot of times also we actually bring the spouses into it.
yeah,
So to the extent we're doing those personal books with you, we have clients whose spouses jump on those calls with us for part of the call so
yeah,
that they can be involved in looking at the numbers together. And a lot of our clients have like will call us their financial therapist. It's just like in quotes because that's actually a real thing. That's just,
yeah. Oh, interesting.
so yeah, because we really help guide and navigate those conversations.
Well, let's go back to something you talked about before, which is feeling some adversity around the numbers as women. So I talk about this all the time when it comes to looking at the data for your marketing data. And, I personally, now you started in finance, right? That's a world that you always were very comfortable with. For me, as a marketer, you know, being responsible for the data, having to report the data, working with some very tough men and investors, I had moments where I was in tears before meetings, in tears during meetings, being quizzed on the numbers and all these things. It really activated a very vulnerable place for me as a woman because growing up, again, I wasn't into STEM. I think I fell into the bucket where I think the majority of women, a lot of women, maybe not the majority, but a lot of women fall into this where we're sort of told that we're not good with numbers, that we're not
Mhm.
good thinking in that way. Um, and that can be very detrimental when you're an entrepreneur, right? And so
It-
many women, as I
it's
said,
true.
they don't look at the numbers, they don't engage with them. So for
Mhm.
someone that comes to you and they're piecemealing things together themselves, or they have someone doing it and they don't understand it or whatever, how do you work through the mindset shifts there?
Well, I think also there's some awareness and the you said it yourself, we're told all these things like you're not good at this. It's not polite to talk about money. So 95% of how we show up is based on our subconscious beliefs. Like we don't even realize. So I've had situations where with a client, for example, we put in all the practical tactical, right? We look at the numbers, we figure out what we need to be charging, they increase their revenue, and we put in the saving strategies because we have like a process where we help our clients save for taxes, for growth and emergency fund. We do all those things, open those accounts, and then here's what happened in this one situation. All the money was spent,
Mm,
made all the money we asked for or we knew we needed to live that most prosperous life. It all went. And I sort of said to this client, what's going on here? Without judgment, just like what's happening? There's something deeper here we need to look at. And when she sort of dug into that, what we realized is like she didn't feel safe holding money because her father used to weaponize money.
Mhm.
So she didn't even realize it at first. It wasn't until we dug deeper and started to just like raise the awareness and start to question, where is this behavior coming from? So that's a really important step when you think about your money habits, is like, what did your childhood teach you about money? Many of us were, were raised where, or I hear, these so many stories of, my parents fought about money all the time, so I don't feel like it's safe. Or I was raised by a single mother and she always said you have to work hard to make money. So now we create this hustle culture for ourselves, and that what happens is burnout,
Mm.
right? Or we choose not to work hard because we don't want to burn out like our mother did.
Yeah.
And so we don't reach the level of revenue potential because we have a story about it,
Mhm.
right? So I love to share with people, like, you can make money with ease. Like, there's so much available to you, and it's really all about, you can raise your rates as much as your nervous system allows you to, right? Like, you have to feel that in here,
Yeah.
and when you're ready, then that's the time. So, a lot of it is the belief structure and how we're showing up that we're not even realizing.
Yeah, and I think it's these subconscious sabotages, right? Where it could be like just not looking at the numbers, right? That could be
Yeah.
something subconscious or even conscious. I think uh, that avoidance is something that, again, a lot of us do this without even realizing we're doing it, or that we take all the proper steps, and again, we maybe spend recklessly or we invest without thinking about things.
Yeah.
Or this is one that I've seen too, like you make the investment but then you don't um, like you don't watch it, you don't pay attention to it, you don't, as
Yeah.
a business owner, if we're making any strategic investments or we're hiring someone or hiring an agency or something to do something, and then we actually are not making sure that they're delivering the results or making sure that the ROI is there. It's all of these ways that we maybe are avoiding things that are keeping us small or keeping us held, right? So how, so if you sort of are identifying some of these
Mhm.
subconscious sabotages, like what practically can we do, right? So
Yeah.
these things, like for example, this client that you faced, was it like one conversation she realized and then now, okay, next quarter and subsequent quarters that doesn't happen anymore? Or do you find that it sometimes these things are a little bit more persistent and it takes maybe
Yeah.
several interventions, right? Or different strategies or things like that?
Absolutely. Like, this is an ongoing journey. This isn't a one and done, right? So one of the things that I love to share is one of my trademark processes, which is my RIR method.
Okay.
So with this client, we did a lot of this work and we
But
still
what does
continue
RIR
to.
stand for?
So I'm going to tell you.
Yeah, yeah,
So
okay.
it's recognize,
Yeah.
interrupt, and reframe. So
Mm,
the first step is really noticing, recognizing when you're having negative, disempowering thoughts,
yeah,
interrupting those,
yeah,
taking a breath, right?
yeah,
And then reframing those with more positive, prosperous thoughts. So that inner critic, we have 60,000 thoughts per day. And for us as women, 80% of them are negative. Imagine if we could shift that, what would change in your life?
yeah.
Okay. So think about it this way, and you can use this with anything, but we're going to do some money examples, right? The story of, I'm not good at the numbers, there's never enough money. Recognizing that, interrupting that, reframing. It could be as simple as, every day I trust myself more and more with money. I am abundant.
Mm,
And it doesn't stop there. This is not just about the words, this is about the embodiment of the feeling. What does it feel like in your body? So I want you to, like, close your eyes and really think about, what does it feel like in your body to really trust yourself with money, to know that there's always enough, to know that you are abundant, to know that you're divinely guided, right? To know that you're capable to have anything you desire.
yeah.
What does that feel like in your body?
Mm,
And that's the feeling we want to carry with us with this RIR method. This is about replacing the thoughts with the more positive, prosperous thoughts, but it's also about the feeling of what does it feel like to have that.
Yeah.
And that's the
Okay.
shift.
Okay. Let's use another example because this is something that
Okay.
I deal with in my life. So maybe other people
Yeah.
listening have the same. There's moments where, okay, for example, if you're in the middle of a project, we did like a kitchen remodel. Okay. These moments where a lot of money is going to be spent and
Yes.
things go off the rails, things are more expensive you expect.
Hmm.
So if when I find myself in these situations, um,
Hmm.
we try to do like a month, we do like a weekly numbers report, my husband and I, just to look at the
Love
account
that.
and all this stuff, which is great.
Yeah.
But it doesn't always happen because in these moments, I I can recognize like I'm avoiding this. This is very scary to look at. I don't want to open up an account and a credit card being higher than I expect or lower because I'm not looking
Hmm.
every day. So
Yeah.
I'll avoid, right? And then usually once
Hmm.
I do the numbers, I'm like, oh, okay, I feel better. That wasn't as bad
Yes.
as I thought it was going to
Yep.
be. But it's that anticipation. And then there'll be some days where a week will pass and I'm like, oh, I didn't look at, or I didn't, that I avoided, right? So if
Hmm.
you are dealing with someone that has an avoidance issue, which I think there's
Hmm.
many of us that have that, what would
Yeah.
be an example of a reframe?
I think it's more, first of all, the reframe is this is just data. Like this is
Yeah.
data. There's no need
Even
to
you just saying
judge.
that like gave me like a
Yeah.
nervous
Yeah.
system regulation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think we are so hard on ourselves. We're judging ourselves. Like you just said, you created the story around I don't want to look because I don't know what it's going to be.
Right.
And then, and that's what we do with our clients too, create that safety in looking at their numbers and they're like, okay, I can breathe now. So let go of the judgment, see it as data, see it as information, separate yourself from it.
Mm.
It is not you and you're not it. Okay. And then go from there. And the clarity is so important too, right? So when we talk about that RIR method or like the manifestation of what it is we want, right? Getting clear on what it is we want, visualizing it, and then taking the action. So for you, I always like to shift when I start to feel things like whether it's money or other things like to gratitude. Like I'm so grateful that there's always enough to pay these bills. I'm so grateful that we have that money in the bank. Like we had at our home like an unexpected $20,000 expense because of
Air
something that
conditioning or
happened
whatever. Yeah.
before, with the debt. Oh, there's been many air condition, there's a whole bunch, but this
Yeah.
particular one was like something related to the way the deck was built before we bought
Yeah.
it.
Oh,
And we were like, whoa, like we thought it was going to be $2,000 or $3,000 and we got the bill. And I sort of like breathed and I was like, wait, what? Like I obviously asked the question, can you share more?
yeah.
And then I was like, okay, how grateful I am that we have saved, that we have this extra money. And then I was able just to let it go. And the money continues to flow, the money continues to come, and we get into our trust and we take action too.
Yeah. I think that one is huge because business ebbs and flows. Every
Yeah.
business has winters and springs, and sometimes you have to make some investments when maybe it's not ideal, but that's what you need to do to push things forward, right? I'm in marketing.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to go to
Yeah.
that conference or event, right? Or you have to do those ads and you have to stay consistent with your strategies even in those moments, even when you lose a client or even when tariffs are happening, right? It's like whatever is happening in your business.
Mhm.
And I think that one of the really powerful ideas that you just mentioned was there's always more. Like there's always
Yes.
more coming. This is definitely an abundance mindset, but understanding that there's it's not that we're in a finite amount of, especially now that we're still working, we're not retired, we're not just living off of a
Mhm.
clock tire and watching something dwindling, right? That we have opportunity. And I would even, once you're retired with investments, you have the opportunity to keep earning. But I think and I don't know where this comes from as humans, and I don't know if this is just women, but I feel like sometimes there is that very fixed mentality when it comes to money. We
Mhm.
kind of forget that money, just like everything, is energy and it ebbs and flows into our business. And I think if anyone can really look at, I don't know if this is I mean, I'm sure this is very common, but for me, in any of those moments where like an unexpected $20,000 deck thing happens, it seems like, and this is maybe a good mindset that I have, but I feel like you're always sort of taken care of, right? Like
Yes.
there is always enough. There is always
Right.
enough, right? And maybe it's 20K out of the savings this month, but maybe in the next couple months there some unexpected money comes to you, right?
That's right.
And I think sometimes we just don't
Yeah.
pay attention to those things.
That's exactly right. You said exactly where my mind was going. So I love that. So first of all, you said we don't pay attention. We get stuck in the muck, right? You talked about ebbs and flows in the business. It's very natural for there to be ebbs and flows as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, right? We obviously do a lot to have like regular monthly recurring revenue, but there are times where there's things that happen or change. You may lose a client, or you may get into your own, you may have a family emergency. I had something,
Yeah.
a couple of years ago where I had to really step back from my business because of a health issue within the family. So it impacted us, of course. And here's the thing, when you get stuck in the muck, I want you to just remember something. We have something in our brain called the reticular activating system, the RAS. It's like the bouncer for your brain,
Yeah.
right? We can process, um, well, let me go this way. There are 11 million bits of information available to us at any second. Yes, 11 million. We can process 40.
Wow.
So, where you're putting your attention is what you're seeing. If you are going on about there's never enough money, there's so much debt, that's what you're going to see. You're going to see evidence because you're essentially telling your mind to look for evidence of that. You're going to just focus on that there's bills to pay and that there's no money in the bank, and you're starting to see overdraft fees. But if you start to look at something differently, if you start to tell your mind to say, there's always money. I love how money appears out of nowhere. I love the surprises. Then you start to open your mind up to the different ways that money is available to you. And I'm not saying you're just going to get checks mailed to you out of nowhere always. Sometimes you're just going to see that there is money available to you. What I mean is, how grateful you are that you have credit available to you, how grateful you are that the bank trusts you to give you a line of credit
Mhm.
or that credit card, right? Those are also forms of money in times when you are making decisions to make investments in your business that you know are going to pay off in the longer run, but they may make you have negative, um, you know, be negative right now and not be profitable this month because you're making a choice for a future.
Yeah.
And that's also okay. Sometimes we do need to invest to grow.
Oh, that's a huge one.
So
And
yeah.
there's a huge, it's so funny because I think, with marketing, we butt up against this a lot. And I've, many women in communities that I'm a part of, for example, very scared of turning on ads.
Yeah.
Very, very scared of making the investment. And I think
Yes.
that it kind of goes back to what we said before about believing that it'll be returned to you, believing that the ROI is
Correct.
going to be there. And I think we get,
Yes.
and I think that men are a little bit more aggressive in their confidence in
Mhm.
making monetary investments and getting the return on them. I'm not sure what it is in our past where I think us as women, we are very, uh, like we're more like accumulators. I think maybe having
Right.
our own money makes us feel safe, right?
There
And
is.
so spending
Mhm.
maybe feels unsafe, right?
Yeah, so it goes back to that belief structure too, right? So there's something in there to look at because I do think in general, just as an opinion, I don't actually know the research on this, but I think that men are more risk averse than women,
Yeah.
but there's a reason they say no risk, no reward,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
So it like at the end of the day, we need to trust ourselves, trust our intuition, tune in to what feels really good. That's important too. So look at the practical, tactical numbers, decipher like, does this feel like a good investment? And then really check in with yourself. And
Mm.
that's I think important. Um, and I think with investments, it, it is something to really look at, like spending a couple thousand on ads every month when you're selling something that's $20,000 a month or even a year
Yeah.
is sort of a no-brainer if you
Right.
know you have a great partner like
Right.
your firm.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, here's another thing. Let's go. We've got kind of talking about the mindset stuff. Let's talk about the practical things.
Yeah.
What do you believe? Because one of my like deepest core beliefs when it comes to marketing or any part of your business, whether it's finance or HR or whatever, is that before you can just hire someone to do everything for you, you need to
Mhm.
understand enough to give it away. But particularly in finance, I feel like it's a piece where we just run blind. Maybe we hire a
Yeah.
bookkeeper and we're just meh, or we talk to an accountant once a year and we don't
Mhm.
look. So, what do you believe are the most important things for female founders to understand about finance? Right.
Mhm.
And I say this from someone as, like last or 2 years ago, I was like, I need to know enough to give it away. And I enrolled in a college level, like university accounting course, which was way more than I needed, I
Yeah.
think. And
Yeah.
I was very overwhelmed.
Yeah.
I was looking at, again, like the profit and loss. I was looking at
Hmm.
you know, not just the profit, but all of
The
like
balance
really
sheet and then
balance sheets, understanding the difference
right.
between the, and I'm like, well, my
Yeah.
business is, it's not a huge business. We're a small but mighty team. What's like even relevant for me to really understand, right?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, one of the biggest things I hear, one of those prominent things is I'm profitable, so why do I feel broke?
Yes.
So we go there. We really dig in, like, why do you feel broke if you're profitable? And it's because a lot of times we're only focused on that profit and loss report.
Yeah.
So we call it the
Like the
P&L,
only
right?
thing we look
Which,
at. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, it's the only thing we look at, but it's not enough. It's kind of like our society is so focused on revenue and like, oh, I'm seven-figure business owner. But that doesn't matter if you're in debt, half a
yeah,
million dollars. If you're making 250K and you have a great life and you've got lots of money in the bank and you've got everything you could possibly want,
yeah,
that's so much better than being a
yeah.
seven-figure business owner, right?
Oh,
Okay.
absolutely. And let me tell you, and this is a really important message to get to everyone because we have the opportunity. I also am looking at P&Ls for clients that we work with, and there are so many occasions where I have multiple seven, even eight-figure businesses that we're working with that are not profitable. And
Yes.
the sexy, flashy story is, this is our valuation, and everyone's so proud to talk about that, but the owner's
Mhm.
not paying themselves.
Exactly. And so
It's
that's
crazy.
that's what we're going to dig into. So
Yeah.
we focus on the profit and loss, which is where we see our revenue and our expenses. And yes, you may have a positive number as
Yeah.
a profit, but that profit is like where it starts. That profit is many cases is what pays you as a business owner.
Right.
It's what pays old debt. So if you have line of credit or credit card from prior years that from when you launched, when you needed to make some big investments, that comes out of your profit. What else comes out of your profit? Your taxes. That's not in your P&L report because mostly your taxes are
Yeah.
personal
Very
taxes
true.
that are passed on from your business.
Yeah.
The saving for emergency fund, the
Yeah.
saving for
Yes.
growth, like you
Yes.
talked about growth,
I know.
that
And just
all comes out of the profit.
right. I know.
Yeah. So we do this thing with our clients where we call it our bottoms up approach, where you're sort of reverse engineering. If I want to pay myself X to live the most beautiful, prosperous life I can live, to cover all my expenses, invest in things, save for my own personal emergency fund, how much do I need? And then what do I want to do to, I need to pay my business expenses. I need to build my business emergency and growth fund. I need to save so that I don't have tax surprises at year end, which could turn you into a tailspin, right? And what's that magic number?
Yeah.
So that's the key here that you all want to
Yeah,
know.
I love it. And this is where the personal and the business collide. And I don't think it's a practice that a lot of people consciously go to. Because I think, again, I think a lot of times we're building our businesses with like, we just want to keep making more, right? And then
Yes.
sometimes that means we're making hires and we're making these investments and we're not really even looking at how that affects the profitability, right? Because we're kind of looking at a revenue number.
Hmm.
But, a lot of times, especially for, when I'm doing goal setting for marketing and sales, right? The question is always like, how much, what's the business goal of like how much we need to make, right? And a lot of people are
Yes.
just looking at their expenses. They're not even thinking about the profit. They're just saying, okay,
Right.
well, if we cover our expenses and make a little bit more, then that's enough. But that leaves the margin so small and thin is why I believe a lot of founders can be not paying themselves real salaries for a long, long
That's
time because
exactly
they're
right.
not reverse engineering it. And then they say, and a lot of times, and this is from Tony Robbins, like years ago, I remember him saying, like,
Mm,
write it down on paper what your dream life looks like, because you will be surprised that it's probably far, far less money than you think. Like, I think we all
that's
think
right.
we want to have like $1 million in personal take home pay.
Yeah.
But when we look, and maybe some of us have aspirations of private jets and things like that. But if we're like, we want to take X amount of vacations a year, we want to live in this zip code, we want to drive this car, it's not maybe millions of dollars of personal take home income a year. It could be
Yeah.
far, far less than that. And then your business maybe
Yes.
doesn't look like a $20 million a year business. Maybe it looks like a $3 million business a year business, and you can operate very lean, right? So it's
Right.
really about building the life that we want. I know we talk about, and sometimes I think from the men's side, there's a little bit of a poo-poo on this idea of a lifestyle business. But if you're a business owner, anything you do is a lifestyle business. It's just you have to choose what kind of lifestyle you want it to be, right?
That's exactly right. And I love what you were saying about Tony Robbins. So, just one of the things that I love about what I do here in the company, and actually not just with our clients, but more broadly, is talking about prosperity and what it means to you and really helping you redefine it. So, I use my three pillars of redefining prosperity framework, which previously I had workshops that I did only with our clients, and now I've been doing them with non-clients and
Exciting.
running those. And
Got to
it's
tell us when those
incredible.
are. Yeah.
Oh, I definitely will. And I'll share how people can learn about it. But those three pillars are much more holistic. Prosperity, traditionally, many of us think about prosperity as financial success, as the green stuff, as money. Prosperity is so much more. And so I share about well being, spirituality, and healthy relationships with people and money. And we really dig deeper into each of those areas. And really, when you embody all of those areas, that's when you live your most prosperous life. And I have like kind of definitions around, obviously what each of those pillars is as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, interesting. And so this is like a process that you can teach and people kind of start on their own.
Yeah, yeah, we take them through what are those pillars. We do a vision, we do a guided visualization, and then that creates your vision. And then we kind of like, what are the actions you need to take now to live, to get more closer to that prosperous life that you're
Yeah.
desiring, right? Because
I
it
think,
doesn't just happen
yeah.
overnight.
And this is one of the things, and this is interesting. I don't know if anyone else feels this way, but you know, cerebrally, I understand how important that
Mm,
right is to have that
yeah,
vision. Subconsciously, I find myself in a lot of resistance of going through that process. And like,
yeah,
if you aim for nothing, you'll reach it every time. And I certainly
yeah.
have numbers, right? I have my KPIs,
Hmm. Yeah.
very clear. But if I look at how do those KPIs connect to the vision of my life,
Mm,
I think many of us get caught up again in, okay, here's the revenue number needs to be, because we're
mm,
told that's what success looks like, right? And
exactly.
yeah, I think that again, but it might just be like the most important work. So if you don't
Yeah.
mind, I would love to talk a
Yeah.
little bit, because this podcast and what I do is all about scaling. So
Mhm.
I would love to learn a little bit about, you know, you on Wall Street. What was the vision, right? After maybe after working with the coach, what was the vision that you had for this next chapter in your life that you're now living? And how did you step into that? And did you start sort of with building this company vision right off the bat, or did you have to work your way up to it? So what was sort of your journey like of creating and building your vision?
Yeah, I definitely started just where I was. My focus was right where my feet were, which was okay. I have a friend who was one of those women with that story.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not good at the numbers. I don't know how to do this finance stuff. And I just said, let me help you. I have time now and I've got this experience. So it was just right there, working with her, getting in her office, looking at what's going on, doing all the practical, tactical, getting her bookkeeping up to date, looking at her rates, the piles of IRS, letters that she was ignoring, and just like what's happening here. And after 3 months, she started to talk about, wow, I feel like I fell in love with my business again. I feel like I can make informed decisions. I feel so different now. And she started to tell people about me. And then, I met my next client who was not my friend,
Yeah.
and she shared her financial woes and worries. And I was like, I think I can help you. And she said, she got tears in her eyes and she said, I feel like an angel sent you. And that was it. I knew that this work was meant for me. I didn't know how different it would be for people. I
Yeah. Of
didn't actually, even if I'm being honest, didn't know how much emotion came with the money because I didn't have that growing up,
course.
being quote unquote good at math and
Right.
like going in finance and Wall Street. I didn't kind of carry that with me, which is
Yeah.
beautiful because now I can carry that for others and
Yeah.
like make them feel like you got this,
Yeah.
and I can be their support.
Yeah.
Um, and it's not just me, it's my incredible team as well, obviously. And me even saying my incredible team, 11 years ago when I started, it was just me and my computer. I had
Yeah.
to literally teach myself everything there is to know about small business finances because you don't learn this on Wall Street. You don't
Right.
learn this in a textbook. I
Right.
learned it. I cried many nights, like in front of QuickBooks where I couldn't like do something. I
Yeah.
hired people to help me learn, or had great mentors to teach me too. And I took all that knowledge and I created this business. And it has been such a journey of beautiful, holistic growth and trust. I have just grown very organically. I think marketing is really important and I'm really focused on that now because now I'm like, I want to build an empire. But
Yeah.
back then, I
Yeah.
was just like, oh, another person told another person, this is great. And that's just how I grew. And this is also interesting and I think helpful. I was totally burned out. Like after I got to like the six figures and then people like a couple of years in, I had all these clients and people were like, how do I refer you? And I'm like, I don't even have time to help anyone. And you know why? It's because I was charging hourly and I was way undercharging. And so I also learned the hard way myself. Like you need to create, and productize what you're doing and really look at the value of what you're providing.
Yeah.
And I started to shift and change everything. And of course, for a little while, that impacted my referrals because all my referrals were coming easily because they had these like low rates,
Right.
and now we still get incredible referrals and people know like the value we add. And it's allowed us to scale. It's allowed me to sleep
Yeah.
better
Yeah.
and be on vacation and still be, earning money so I can pay my team and
Yeah.
continue to run the business and continue to provide the support I do. So it's been really organic. And now I'm really open to the empire,
Yeah.
and just continuing. The biggest thing with building in a service business is, ensuring the quality. And that's so important to me. And that's why I don't just build and hire tens of people at once because yeah, I could do that so we could serve more people and then we'd need, your marketing machine.
Yeah. Yeah.
But also I think scaling in a way where you're keeping the level of quality and excellence that that is so important to you and your company is key.
But that's where I think like, and it's interesting, that's where I think that this vision comes in, right? Because part of it's, we all have aspirations of empires, right? Or many of us do. But I think um, there also is this idea of, well, how big do I want the team to be?
Yeah,
Much do
it's
I
true.
want to, or even how much do I want to be involved? Or, right? There's a lot of different ways that you could scale a business, right? Um, and I think that process of gaining clarity on what that looks like to you that feels really good is important. And sometimes, because our trajectory is quite similar in the fact that, yes, you grow kind of organically and you kind of hire people as the need comes up. And maybe it's not like, okay, we're going to hire, we're going to build out this whole department this year because that's our target, right? It's more like reactive, right? And then little by little, you're building bricks of this house that comes together. But at the same time, I think, you know, with each of these levels comes, and this is something that we were talking about before we press record, and our common friend Tracy Litt talks about a lot, right? How do you um, step into that next version, right? So when you were the Ruchi that was doing everything yourself, um, there was a process that had to happen before you said, okay, I need some support, right? And now maybe you might be on the cusp of saying, okay, well, maybe I do want to grow this a little bit bigger. What are
Hmm.
some practical steps? Because it's a mindset that is very connected to money and the capacity that your heart has to welcome that revenue in. Otherwise, we do end up sabotaging, right, those opportunities. So, how do
Yeah.
you kind of work through that? Because I think a
Uh,
lot of listeners are going through that. And I personally, right, I think we're on a similar path. What are the things that you're practically doing to kind of maybe level up?
so I think first thing is trust.
Mm.
Trust and everything starts with self-trust. Everything starts with self-love. So when you're thinking about what it is you want, I want you to start thinking about what is the feeling you want to have every day. Like instead of focusing on the revenue number or the things, figure out how do you want to feel every day? Like if you were to tell me, like what are the three things you want to feel every day in your life? What would they be?
Oh, I think first thing that came to mind is taken care of. Like feel like the team.
Okay.
Those moments
Yeah.
when your team steps in, that they're
Yes.
so aligned with you that
Yes.
they anticipate your needs or something's already taken care of. So you can go
Yes.
pick up your kids or you can go enjoy that
Beautiful.
vacation or some
Great.
a client needs something, right? So taken care of is one that really feels strong for me.
Amazing. What else?
Um, the other one is really, and I don't want to use this word because it's a different word, which is it's abundance, but I think the word is possibility, right? So when you do see
Mm,
that there is that that profit account, right? That savings is rich
mhm,
in your business. What that does is
mhm.
open up possibilities for
Okay.
investments, right? For more growth,
Yeah.
right? So it's
Yeah.
the possibility, and I think money ties very closely into that. Um,
Beautiful. Okay.
and I think the third is freedom,
Freedom. I love that.
right?
So when you and mine are, I'll give you mine. Mine
Yeah,
are ease,
yeah,
mine are peace,
yeah.
and mine are joy. So
Always
those are my
always an
three.
important one.
Yeah. Yeah. So for you, it's like when you think about having that feeling every day, and now you're making decisions on a daily basis, your decisions are now going to be based off of those feelings. Like those are your North Star.
Yeah,
And when you're saying yes or no, do they align? Will you feel that way?
yeah.
Right. Like, and this could be you, for example, deciding to, on, three different investments of growth. If you do all those three at once, you're probably not going to be feeling
Mhm.
cared for, right? Like
Mhm.
it might just be a lot for you.
Mhm.
So maybe you're thinking about, well, which of these most aligns with what I need right now to feel?
You're so good because I've got like three different strategies I want to activate in the summer. And
Yeah.
actually, that consciousness that you just brought into my life is saying, hey, actually, that might not really serve for what these feelings I want to have, right? If I make all of these
Yeah.
investments at the same time, uh, during a time where I'm like, hey, I know this is going to take 2 or 3 months to sort of start yielding some results,
Yeah.
because this is something that again. from the marketing perspective, from the sales perspective, like there are many things that do take time. And so being conscious of when you make those investments and how many you're doing, at the same time is going to give you maybe that feeling of more or less abundance when you're looking at the numbers, right? That's
Exactly.
such a smart unlock that you just made for me.
Good. Well, I
Yeah.
can't wait to know what you
Yeah.
choose.
Yeah.
Hopefully, in the end, whatever you choose, you're choosing you, right?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like,
And I think all of these decisions that we make, I think, especially when it comes to the finance and investing in getting the right people around you, investing in the
mhm,
support and really paying attention to your money mindset and your relationship with money in the end is the most important work you can do for yourself that will yield those results ultimately, because that will turn into abundance
mhm,
in whatever form it takes. Um,
mhm,
but I think sometimes, especially as women, when it comes to things that are more, again, it's like working on the business instead of working in the business. These things of working on mindset is our version of working on the business. It's working on ourselves.
exactly.
And there's a
Yes.
lot of excuses that come up to why we can't do that, right? There's no time,
Yeah.
or
Right.
there's not that tangible, immediate ROI in that activity, right? Um, that we have to, again, it's a long-term investment.
It's a long term, and I would say that you saying there's not an immediate long term impact is a story
Yeah, I know. I
because
felt it as I said it, actually.
yeah, when
Someone to be aware of
yeah, I love
that.
it. Well, this is what
Yeah,
I mean. We
yeah,
listen. I heard
yeah,
that. I didn't
yeah,
let that go,
yeah.
right? So this is where you go to RIR. I told you RIR is a gift to you. It's free. You take it with you. You can use it in any area of your life.
I'm gonna
You
put that in a
saying
post-it right next to my computer,
yes.
really.
Amazing. You saying I have no time is a story. And what happens when you say I have no time? You feel overwhelmed, right? Like you're running around like a chicken without a head, right? That saying. So what if next time you're like, I have no time, I have no time. You recognize it, you interrupted it, and you reframed it with like, ah, everything happens in its perfect time.
Yeah,
I am time.
yeah,
I am time. Breathe. Feel that.
yeah. And
What
I think
happens?
that is so, and again, like my nervous system feels so much better. And again, I think we have to understand, like, as business owners, I think, none of us are unique in feeling um, impatient, right? I think in
Yes.
business, I think there's always more to do. There's always more we want to
Yeah.
accomplish. There's always more, more, more. And it's just like necessary. We have to say things happen
Yeah.
in their own time. Things take time.
Yeah.
Uh,
And that's our
Ruchi,
ego too. Yeah. That's our
I-
ego. We want everything now. What if we trusted that everything was happening exactly when it's supposed to? That everything that's meant for us is happening. It's available to us and it's coming and we can just trust that we can live in flow and live in those feelings of what we want, take the actions and just have some patience.
yeah, that's such a beautiful gift. Okay, Ruchi, I want everyone to follow you and sort of get into your world. So, where do you like to hang
Amazing.
out online?
Yeah, so online, I love to hang out on Instagram. So
Yeah,
follow me there for sure at Watch Her Prosper.
perfect.
Okay. And um, obviously my website, watchherprosper.com.
Yeah,
Anyone who's interested to dig in, we didn't sort of dig in too much to the three pillars of redefining prosperity framework. So anybody who's interested in that, when you go to my website, there's a pop-up there that you can grab a free workbook, just my redefining prosperity workbook, and you can kind of work through some prompts and exercises, and then you'll be on my email list and you'll be able to learn more about our workshops that way. So yeah, come hang out.
perfect. Is there like a specific URL they can go to grab that?
Yeah, so they can also go to iwanttoprosper.com. and they
Okay.
can grab it there as well. The other thing, anybody who is, many of you here are business owners, of course, and if you're looking for support, if you're a service-based business owner, there's an application on our website to work with us. So you'll see it there, apply to work with us, and you can submit that, and we can reach out to you to have a call.
Perfect. But this is, I think, grabbing that workbook is a great also an example of something that you can do to spend a couple minutes, even if it's just a couple minutes a day for a couple days of working on the business, right? On the strategy, which is your mindset, your vision. Because again, it's often the things we maybe scoff at or don't really carve time out for because we don't believe maybe that that's going to make such a huge difference. But I think through this conversation, we can show you that it may be the most important thing that you do for your
Exactly.
business and
Exactly.
right?
You,
So I'm so glad that you have a tool that people can use to get started right away. And again, watchherprosper.com or I want to prosper.
yeah, I want to prosper.com to
And
grab
we'll
that
keep
directly.
everything, yeah, all of those links in the show notes. Ruchi, thank you so, so, so much for this conversation. It's helped me. I feel like it's been like a money therapy for me, to be honest.
I'm
Um,
so glad.
and I think it is, again, one of the most important things we can do for ourselves and our business. So thank you.
Thank you. You're so welcome. It's such a pleasure. Thank you for having me.